French essayist Barthes writes,
"As soon as a fact is narrated no longer with a view to acting directly on reality but intransitively, that is to say, finally outside of any function other than that of the very practice of the symbol itself, this disconnection occurs, the voice loses its origin, the author enters into his own death, writing begins."
So what the death of the author means is that meaning is not something retrieved or discovered, having been there all the while, but rather something spontaneously generated in the process of reading a text, which is an active rather than passive action. What I take from that is this. As soon as you've decided to put your work out there, be it a book, be it a movie, a show, a play, a song, once you've released it to an audience, given that aspect of yourself portrayed it in that way, it is no longer yours. The work will stand for itself and it doesn't belong to you anymore. You wrote it, yes, but in the sense of the work itself, you don't exist anymore. Publishing is your funeral. Now, we'll continue the video in the vein of my interpretation, probably as he would have wanted. He goes on to define the author in his own terms. That is a relatively modern term meant to link the author to his work. Like painters and their madness, R. Kelly's mess with his lyrics, stuff like that. He explains that giving a work an author limits the audience's ability to interpret it. I like that, and I kinda want to expand on it. Now, I don't mean that in the separate the art from the artist sense that the kids nowadays want to do when someone's being cancelled. Like, I'm not in the,
yeah, this YouTuber used to call everyone slurs, but I want to enjoy his videos, so I'm going to ignore that fact because I'm neurodivergent and a minor, woo-woo.
camp. Like, if I don't like a creator, then fuck the work. In fact, I like to take it in the context of the creation itself. If I'm watching you, oh prolific YouTuber, make racist, misogynistic, queerphobic jokes, and I get disgusted by it, then here come your stands.
You don't get it, it's a joke, it's just shock humor.
And blah 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 blah. But firstly, the content isn't explicit enough about being a joke, and secondly, it's still bad taste and unfunny overall, then the work is still problematic. A work should be able to stand for something by itself. I should be able to read something, listen to something, watch something in its entirety without additional context, and understand the critique being made. Now, to clarify, I'm not in the camp of censorship either. I'm all for deplatforming in the sense that, hey YouTube, stop shoving this bigoted content in my face. But in the case of so-called problematic content in the modern context, I don't think it should be done away with. Let's talk about classic literature, reader. Let's talk about your English teacher's faves when they decide to teach you that racism exists and black people have feelings. Let's talk about mockingbirds and white saviors and consider the time period. It wasn't that bad. And now I know I will say the N-word, but I don't like reading books about racism, personally. Right now, at least, I am very much burnt out on the unfairness we have to experience. I don't want to be angry all the time, especially now when I'm reading. It's my escape. I want to escape all that. So when it comes to your anti-racist faves, I will pause. I do wish they weren't what teachers default to when they need to teach grown-ass teenagers empathy. There's something so annoying, so condescending in the disclaimers. It was a different time doesn't mean it wasn't racist. Black people existed then too. Slurs existed then too. I hate when people say that, like, I'm sorry, but don't be touched. They didn't realize you had rights yet. Like, no ways. I'm absolutely in my rights to be offended. Furthermore, I don't care how much you like an author or their writing. They were racist too. Them writing this goddamn white savior book doesn't take away from that, like, at all. I'll get more into my relationship with classic literature as a black person another time, but I want to address the way people take contextualizing way too far. If your, for the time, anti-racist piece of work still comes off racist, it is racist. Now let's come at it from another angle. Let's talk about good, weird old Vladimir and Lolita. Lolita is a story told from the point of view of a pedophile, one of the most despicable types of human beings. It's gross and skin-crawly. The main character gives off countless justifications for his actions. If you stop partway, you may see it as a defense for pedophilia, a romanticization. But we don't often talk about what happens at the end, reader. Spoilers if you've never read it. He goes to jail. He gets out and finds the object of his sick obsession, and we see Dolores being scared of him. We feel that discomfort through her. We truly come to terms with the damage he's caused her. Vladimir finally tells you, reader, this dude whose mind we've been living in is a monster. Look what he's done to her. After all these years, she hasn't recovered. These are the consequences of his abhorrent actions, and any justifications he makes don't take away from that. That, viewer, is how you do a commentary. That is a critique. He didn't write the story and expect you to figure out pedophilia is wrong. He told you whether or not you noticed that he did that. In the age of decreased media literacy, when people seemingly fall into the two camps of they're just drawings versus teenage sex should never be depicted ever, we seem to forget the point of analysis. When you put something out there, it's no longer yours. When you say words, you can't take them back. No amount of explaining can change how they were perceived in that moment. And for literacy, for art and culture and storytelling, that can be a good thing. You shouldn't need to know the creator's backstory for a story to grip you, for it to make you feel something. Barthes uses the example of how Van Gogh's poor mental health lends value to his paintings. But it shouldn't, should it? I love Van Gogh purely because I find his paintings aesthetically pleasing, nostalgic and foreign at the same time, chaotic and calm. And they make me want to go somewhere tranquil and take in the sights around me. My sympathy for Van Gogh may add to that enjoyment, but I already fell in love with his paintings well before that. YouTube's whole commentary and critique culture is centered around that. You can shit on art without directly attacking the creator. Hell, you may even love the creator as an individual. As a creative, you can project your own thoughts into a work. You may be projecting beliefs you don't even hold, but once it's out here for me to look at, you can't control what I think of it. It may be your baby. You may see it through rose-colored spectacles and be surprised that others don't see it the same way. You may think the critic is willfully misinterpreting you. The critic may find meaning in the work that you didn't intend to be there. As a creator, you really have to be open to all those possibilities. Creation, besides being an act of expression, is an act of generosity and sacrifice. Once you've let go of your creation, you have no control of where it will go and what people will do with it. The work is a reflection of the author and is, at the same time, its own entity. I can make assumptions on what the author thinks from their work, and it is not in the author's realm of power to stop me from doing so. You can't write the piece, say the thing, and afterwards force me to interpret it some sort of way. I will think what I think, because I'm not you and have different views. You may change after releasing it, you may correct yourself, resent your mindset at the time, or regret that it got misinterpreted. But the misinterpretation itself is out of your control. And that's a good thing. It's good for you and I, the reader, the viewer, the consumer, the listener, the non-creative. I create meaning for all I consume. I'm free to think for myself, to take what I want and leave what I don't. I find sentiments where there were none. I can look around and find the ones I missed. The creator narrates the story, but I'm the one who tells it. And there's so much power in that, reader, just as someone who enjoys art. I'm not that creative, but I can use all this media as an avenue. You can describe the character to me, but you can't change how I imagine them. It's an underrated position, being the consumer, the reason for the art's existence. It's a two-way street. Both of us are needed for the art to have a purpose. So what does death of the author mean? It means meaning only exists on analysis. It means you are guaranteed to misunderstand the creator's original meaning, and that's okay. It means there's no correct interpretation, and all interpretations are correct. It means all headcanons are real. All the main characters of Harry Potter are trans, and there's nothing Joanne can do about it. It means Nick and Gatsby absolutely explored each other's bodies, even if the thought would have made F. Scott Fitzgerald roll over in his grave. It means this whole video could be me being entirely wrong, and I don't have to care. Reader, I like to let the author die, if for no other reason than because it's more fun that way. This was oh so incredibly rambly, I know. I hope there's a cogent point in there somewhere. This has just been me having a thought about literature. Thank you for listening to it. And with all that said, goodbye.
For good? No, I wish.
Okay.